Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello everyone, and welcome to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I am your host, Joanna. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Bouncing Back, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast. I'm Marie, your host for today, as Joanna is currently away. We've all experienced that midday slump, that moment when our energy dips and our focus wavers. And for some, the solution seems clear, which is a quick power nap to recharge and refocus. But it often ends in an excruciating grogginess or the sheer inability to sleep until like 3 a.m. in the morning. So is napping really the productivity hack it's often touted to be, or is it just a myth? To help us answer this question, we're joined by physician and sleep specialist, Dr. Angela Holliday-Bell, who understands firsthand the struggles of achieving quality sleep as a former insomniac herself. Currently, she sits on the advisory board of Health Magazine and regularly contributes to a number of print and online publications by the likes of Sleep Foundation, Women's Health Magazine, and more. Hi, Angela. It's a delight to have you here. How are you doing?
Hello. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on as well. So could you tell us a bit more about your personal experience with napping and what it does for your productivity?
Yeah, so first of all, I absolutely love napping. It's definitely one of my favorite things to do. But I would say you have to nap responsibly. And we can talk about what that means, I'm sure, shortly. But napping is a great way to increase your energy, your productivity, your mental clarity, creativity. There are so many positive effects of napping, especially when you nap responsibly. So it's something that I try to do actually every day, unless I have clinical duties or something that interferes with my schedule. I always try to get a good power nap in.
For sure. It's the same that goes with everything when it comes to health, everything in moderation, right?
Exactly.
Right. So that's a great preface for our topic for today. But before we get further into detail, we'd like to get to know you better. This is Have You Met Dr. Angela Holliday-Bell? And my first question for you is, what do you like to do in your spare time?
Ew, great question. So I love obviously sleeping. I love to work out. So I work out pretty regularly, like 5 days a week. And then shopping. I can't get enough of online shopping, in-person shopping. I love it all.
Mm. I love that you really just own that you love to sleep. That's
Oh
not
yeah.
something that I really hear with a lot of even sleep coaches. Yeah.
I practice what I preach here. So yes, I love to
Yeah,
sleep.
that's really good. I rarely hear that amongst professionals, and I feel like it just needs to be owned a little bit more. There's less shame
Yeah.
with
Yes.
the whole thing about needing to sleep because
Agreed.
it's not laziness.
It's
You
not.
genuinely need it. And it's an art to kind
Absolutely.
of really master that skill. And so with your other side interests with shopping, how often do you do it? Where do you shop from? Tell us a little bit about that. What do you like to shop?
It depends on what's happening in my life at the time. I recently bought a home. Actually, it's been a little while now, like 7, 8 months ago. And so all of my shopping has been home related. Now it's been the fun grown up stores like Home Depot and Menards and like those kind of things. But when it wasn't my home, I love to shop for clothes. I love deals. So it just depends on who's having the best deal at the time. Again, I actually really love shopping in person, but if I'm too busy, I'll just scroll through online. And yeah, whoever has the best deals at the time is who gets my business.
Yeah, I love finding deals as well, a really, really good deal, but it can take me a while to get there. So how long do you usually take to really find that deal and decide that you're going for that?
Oh, I'm a pretty decisive person, so I decide pretty quickly. A good shopping stint for me is probably like 30 minutes to an hour, particularly online. I've kind of mastered the art of scrolling through and hitting the sales. And usually it's because they send me like an email like, hey, we have a sale going on. So I already know there's a deal. So yeah, I'm pretty efficient with my shopping.
Yeah, that's actually amazing. It's something that I personally have yet to master myself because I get so overstimulated by everything and I get distracted so often that I end up like not remembering that I was even looking for the deal in the first place, which is
Oh
I guess
no.
what other people like what businesses are trying to do.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, you've got that skill. You've got that skill for sure. So, apart from that, are there any books, movies, or TV shows that you like to watch in your spare time?
Oh, yeah. So I'm actually a reality show person. Don't judge me, people, because I do a lot. So I listen, I read a lot of like, sleep books, and I do a lot of research. I do a lot of editing of articles. And so I'm really deep in research all the time. So when I have the leisure time to just watch TV, I like just like mindless television. I like challenge shows. Like my husband and I watch like reality competition shows. So yeah, those are like my guilty pleasure.
No shame in that at all. I partake in some reality TV show watching myself.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Do you know Selling Sunset?
I do. Yeah, I watch
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that one's a very entertaining watch to be
Yes,
honest. Yeah.
agreed.
So what t- reality TV show challenges do you often watch?
So like the real world challenge is one of like my kind of me and my husband's go-tos. So that was been going on for like years, like decades now, but it's like a challenge show. There was a show, I think it was on Netflix called like Stronger, and it was like a weight loss competition show. So we like those things. Survivor type shows, like all of those kind of shows are really our go-tos.
Yeah. And if you think about it, there's a lot to analyze in reality TV shows as well as, I mean, as long as,
Yes,
you're aware that some of it might be scripted.
of course. Yes.
Yeah. But there is a lot to think about there. So are there any huge takeaways that you've ever gotten from watching these series?
Oh, huge takeaways. Not really. Again, I watch it fairly mindlessly. I like the competition aspect because we like, me and my husband are both very competitive people. But like I said, I kind of take it with a grain of salt. I understand they set up situations. Some of it is scripted. But it is interesting to me to see how people react in certain situations. So yeah, I just kind of watch it more kind of mindlessly.
For sure. And do you and your husband kind of pick teams or pick people to kind of compete against?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So we're like, oh, this one's gonna win, or I want that one to win, and we are rooting for our own teams, and then we get happy like we're the ones who won. Like we get pretty into it.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, to be honest. But
Yes.
apart from that, in your life, either in your professional life or your personal life, is there a role model that you really look up to?
Yeah, I think Michelle Obama has been one for me. Just her poise, her grace, intelligence, and just reading her story. Like, I think it's just something so beautiful about it. And she's definitely someone I look up to.
For sure. You're definitely not alone there. She's a huge role model and inspiration for so many people out there, whether POC or not, I feel like. So that's a great role model to have. And is there a course that you've taken in your life that has inspired you?
Mm. Yeah, of course. I guess I would have to go back all the way back to biology in school, because that was really what got me interested in just the human body and how it works, and how intricately things kind of work together, and how things can fall apart in certain instances too. So that really is what piqued my interest and developed the scientist in me that led me to, wanting to become a doctor and then subsequently a sleep specialist. So yeah, but not so exciting to some people, but I think that played a big role in who I am now.
Oh, no, 100%. And that's kind of what elementary school and high school is there for, I'm sorry, I'm not very in tune with the American education system. I just realized
No
you guys have a
worries.
middle school, right?
We do, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, here it's primary school and then it's high school. So there's no like middle school, if I'm not mistaken. I never had middle school, so I completely missed that. But anyway, back in school, in general, in school, that's what the subjects are there for. Not
Yeah.
every subject's gonna tickle your fancy. I'm sure there's some subjects that you just didn't really get inspired by, but biology was there for you. And everyone has that one subject, I would hope. Some people don't, but that's okay. I just have to put it out there. It's okay if it wasn't the case
Yeah,
for you.
totally
um
fine.
so thank you for answering those questions. I feel like we got to know
Yeah.
you a bit better. Now we'll move on to the interview section. And my first question for you is, how would you define the concept of napping for productivity?
Mm. So it is napping responsibly, as I mean, this is my favorite thing to say, but it's basically utilizing the power of naps strategically to improve your productivity and efficiency and thus your performance in your life. So surrounding, you mentioned at the opening, that midday slump that most of us have, which is really that dip in your circadian rhythm that causes you to be less alert, less productive, and have less energy. And you can use a nap strategically in order to counteract those effects and actually increase your productivity into the afternoon.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think it is very often that people link naps to strategic.
Yeah.
So, um, so with that in mind, the grogginess and the inability to sleep later at night tends to be common struggles for people who nap because you just aren't thinking about it strategically. So what can we do to avoid this? What are some of the strategies that you mentioned?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's all about being strategic in the way you nap. Naps are excellent if done correctly, and there are some kind of rules to follow for proper nap etiquette or nap hygiene. So the first thing is to limit the naps to no more than 30 minutes. So really 10 to 30 minutes is all you need for a solid nap. The reason for this is after 30 minutes, you run the risk of falling into the deeper stages of sleep. And when you're awakened from a deep stage of sleep, you're more likely to suffer from sleep inertia. So that's that groggy, disoriented feeling that you're mentioning that can take a couple hours or more to recover from. So you want to make sure you're remaining in those lighter stages of sleep. You do not have to get deep stages of sleep to get all of the benefits that I already talked about. The other thing is you want to try not to nap after 3 p.m. The reason for that is all day, from the moment you open your eyes, your sleep drive starts to build up in a way that directs you towards sleep. If you nap too late, your sleep drive is more sensitive to that. So you're effectively stealing from that drive. So by the time it comes to going to sleep at night, you haven't had enough of that sleep drive built up to drive you towards sleep sufficiently. So as excellent as napping is, and again, it's one of my favorite things to do, it is no replacement for overnight sleep. So you want to make sure that you're napping in a way that doesn't interfere with your sleep overnight.
hmm And do long naps offer benefits that short naps don't at all? Is there a situation in which a long nap would be better than a short nap?
Not usually. So again, napping should never really compensate for lack of sleep overnight. With that being said, there are some situations, for instance, new parents or people who have certain illnesses, or even sometimes older adults where for some reason they can't get that sleep overnight. It's not, really as much within their control. In that case, sometimes a little bit longer of a nap may be more beneficial if that's the only way that you can get that sleep. But for the vast majority of the population, you really want to focus on getting your biggest consolidated amount of sleep at night and limiting to those naps to the smaller naps. Research has shown naps as short as 8 minutes can give you all of those same benefits as I talked about. So you don't need a long nap to get the benefits.
Yeah, for sure. I know personally from personal experience that sometimes I close my eyes for about 5 to 10 minutes and I wake up because I have to and I'm already alert and I already feel all right. And
Exactly.
however,
Yeah.
I do want to nap for longer just
Sure.
because. Just
Because it
because
feels good.
yeah, just because it feels better to me. It just sounds better in my head, but
Mhm.
it's just not well. So are you saying that that's something that we should limit and that we should try not to give into that temptation to sleep longer just because?
Exactly. Because you don't need to, like I said, the shorter naps give you the same benefits. And also, you don't want to run the risk of having sleep inertia because some people wake up and they feel worse than they did before they went to sleep. And so that negates the benefits you would get from the nap. And then again, you want to make sure that you're enjoying that good consolidated overnight sleep.
Completely. And are there situations or professions in which short naps could have the most impact on?
Yeah, so I really think it can be useful for any profession, but I think if you are particularly someone who works for longer hours at work, it can be helpful to have like a time that you're napping in between time. As a physician and as someone who was in residency, and I would often do very long shifts in the hospital. In those situations, it can be helpful, particularly if you're going to be doing something that requires a lot of your attention and focus, like even performing surgery or performing some sensitive tasks afterwards in a situation where you're already tired and the mental fatigue is there. Taking a short power nap can be super helpful if you're in a creative role. So if you're someone who needs to operate creatively, particularly in the afternoon after that post-lunch dip, it can be helpful to throw some naps in there too, because naps have been shown to increase creativity as well.
That gives me so much gratification knowing that in a creative role, short naps do
Yes,
have benefits. Because sometimes
100%.
that gives me a lot of gratification now knowing that my afternoon naps aren't just going into nothing and just like it helps with the tasks. That's great to
Yes,
know. So
100%.
what other misconceptions do people face when considering napping as a strategy for productivity?
So I think people think that naps are only for children, or that napping makes them lazy, or that it's a waste of time, or that it will interfere with their sleep. I think there are so many misconceptions. And I think some of it comes from just the misconceptions around sleep itself, like people feeling like sleep is a waste of time and that they could be using that time to be productive. And then also people not understanding the proper way to nap, not understanding how to properly utilize it as a tool to improve productivity as opposed to thinking of it as a waste of time. So I think if people were to really look at it from the benefits and doing it properly, they would really understand that it can be a great addition to any healthy work routine.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of similar to how, well, now I feel like sleep hygiene is more talked about and people
Yes,
are sleeping a bit more strategically as well, making sure they're getting
absolutely.
their 8 hours, making sure they're not actively engaging in social media or in
Hmm.
technology right before sleep.
Yeah.
So it goes pretty much the same for napping. When you do feel like you need to have a nap, you have to do it, you have to do the same practices as well.
Yeah. So a good way to get into a good nap position to get the most benefits from it is to keep your nap space dark. So if you're somewhere where there are blackout blinds or curtains, close those. Use a sleep mask. Like I use a blackout sleep mask when I nap. You should be in a space that's either completely silent, so no sounds, or has a continuous soothing sound like white noise or like a the bustling river or a fan blowing. You want to be in a space that you can be comfortable in. So it is similar to the environment that you would set up for your overnight sleep, but just in a shorter, more condensed version for your napping.
Right, and making sure you have a good solid alarm to wake you up for
Yes,
the
that
30
part
minute
is
mark.
key. Yes, wake up. And then the thing is too, like so I nap when I nap it's the same time every day. Like I nap generally around noon on most days when I take a nap. And I've actually trained myself. I wake up roughly between 20 to 25 minutes now without an alarm clock, but that's because I've trained myself and my body and my circadian rhythm to nap at that time. So I would say starting out definitely set an alarm, but you can actually train yourself to nap and train yourself to wake up in a decent amount of time.
Yeah. I've realized that after some along the course of time, I have also been able to wake up within that 20 to 30-minute window, which is great for me.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
that like it's anxiety that wakes me up.
Oh
I
no.
get that like shock, like, oh no. So maybe I still will in those situations. I think maybe I'll stick to the alarm clock just to
Yes,
give
yes,
myself
yes,
peace of
yes.
mind.
Yes.
But also not everyone has that luxury to take naps at work. So in
Right.
these scenarios, what are some practices that they can do to improve their productivity?
If they can't nap.
Mhm.
Oh, so focusing on your nighttime sleep for sure. So again, I like to nap any day that I can, but there are some days that I have clinical duties where I can't have a nap in my schedule. But napping is really the icing on the cake or the cherry on top of the sundae. So I you should be able to withstand and get through your normal day functioning optimally with adequate energy and be productive based on the quality of your nighttime sleep. So if you're someone who can nap, then you really should be focusing on getting good quality sleep at night. And then another thing you can do is make sure you get some natural light exposure during the day. Not only does that help your sleep at night, but it also increases your energy, increases your serotonin release, and can also increase your productivity subsequent to that. So definitely focusing on your nighttime sleep quality, but then also trying to get some natural light exposure, and that can often give you a little boost of energy as well.
Yeah, and is there a recommendation for how frequently naps should be taken? Would you recommend incorporating naps into your daily routine at all, or is that too much?
No, I think it's totally fine to do it daily. I think again, if I didn't have clinical duties, I would actually nap every single day, and every day that I don't, I do. So I think having it as a part of your daily routine, again, sometime in the early afternoon after that post lunch dip, I think it's totally fine. I would probably limit it to not more than one nap in a day, and I think if you're needing more than one, then we need to be looking at your sleep quality at night. But I think a daily nap is totally fine.
And you mentioned just right after the midday slump, but is
Yeah.
there a specific window during the day that's optimal for napping? Is this the window, or is that just like that's when most people feel the need to nap?
Yeah, I would say that probably is the most optimal time, somewhere between, for most people, again, everyone's a little bit different. It's like 12 to 3 p.m. ish is when most people will feel that natural slump in their circadian rhythm and energy. Generally speaking, depending on the time you wake up, hopefully you are feeling energized and functioning optimally through the morning hours. And so often the afternoon time is when people feel the need to nap, but that is generally going to be the most optimal time and the easiest to nap because it aligns with a natural dip in your circadian rhythm.
And how would you recommend striking a balance between incorporating naps into the daily routine and meeting the demands of a busy work schedule?
Yeah, so I think it's all about making the time to do that. So, like I said, the good thing about a strategic power nap is you don't need a lot of time to do it. No more than 30 minutes, but as short as 10 minutes is totally fine. And so, especially if you have a demanding job that's very busy, you don't have to have a whole separate space that you're napping. You could put your head down on your desk, turn the lights off, play some white noise, set an alarm for 10 minutes, and get a boost of energy that you need. So, I think it's just about thinking strategically about it. Research actually shows that taking small breaks during the day in general of 5 to 10 minutes every hour and a half can decrease decision fatigue, relieve stress, and improve your overall well being. So I recommend that people do that anyways, but I would use one of those afternoon times to get a short nap in, and you're not taking up much time, and the effects of that, it pays dividends. So I think it's definitely something that should be easy to incorporate despite a busy schedule.
I'm not sure if you're the right person to ask for this, but this question just popped into my mind. So, well, the Pomodoro timer, that's a huge productivity tool right now for taking short breaks here and there between, like, what was it, 25 minutes to 5 minutes? Like a 25 minutes of focus and then 5 minutes of a break and then go back to it, something along those lines. But at times when you feel like you're in the zone and you don't necessarily want to stop because otherwise you might lose track of where you are, in those cases, do you think that it's important to really stick to that break and then work rule, or would you say just go for it and continue until you're done with that?
Yeah, I think it's okay to continue through your task. So I don't think it has to be exactly at that, time. I think it's helpful to have hard cutoffs so that you're not constantly extending it and then not ever taking your break. 25 minutes is on the shorter side for what I typically would necessarily recommend someone, stop after working. And I think everyone is a little bit different in terms of how long their flow lasts. So some people are like, okay, I can get into a good zone for 60 minutes and then I need a break, or hour and a half, and then I need a break, or 25 minutes and then I need a break. So I think it's deciding what that looks like for you, and then just trying to have something that you at least stick to fairly consistently.
Right. Yeah. I don't know why I took the Pomodoro timer so like literally being like, okay, I have to do this 25 minutes and then 5 minutes. Now that you've explained it, that makes a lot more sense of like, you really can just tweak it to how you work.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So my last question for you is, in what ways can the regular practice of napping impact our long-term productivity and well-being?
Yeah, so I think there are so many benefits. Just first of all, to your overall well being. I think we talked about productivity and how it increases your creativity, it increases your motivation, it increases your energy, which are all things that you need in order to be productive. But it also just improves your mood. It increases your overall well being, decreases stress. Like, there are actually so many benefits that come from power napping that implementing this, especially on a regular basis, can improve all of those things, including your long term health. So again, sleep is important overall for your long-term health, but having some strategic, responsible power napping added in can also give you some long-term health benefits. So there really are no downsides. It's something that I think anybody can benefit from, and they will see a lot of payoff from that.
You're really selling this napping. I feel like I'm going to have a
Highly
nap after
recommend it.
this. But
Yeah.
before I have my nap, let's go on to the practices and habits section, which is where we will talk about the everyday application of short naps. And my first question for you in this section is, what practices would you suggest doing to enhance sleep productivity?
Yeah, so implementing the nap, right? And I think again, if you have the privilege of doing this, making it be something that you're consistent with on a daily basis at a specified amount of time. Some people will say, I can't nap, right? Like, oh, I try and I can't, but you can actually train yourself to be able to do that. So I would say pick a time window. If it's 20 minutes, if it's 30 minutes. If you work from home, go to your bed actually and nap, because your brain should already be connecting your bed with sleep, right? Again, set up the environment to keep it dark, to keep it quiet, or continuous noise. Use some aromatherapy, some lavender that helps to decrease any anxiety and allow yourself to fall asleep. And even if you don't, that restful state, being in that even for 20 or 30 minutes, also has some benefits. And then, of course, the improved productivity and all those things from that.
Right. And are these short naps something that you'd recommend even to people who don't necessarily feel the midday slump or don't feel the need to nap?
That's a great question. I think I think that they will only be beneficial. However, if you're someone who's like, I have a lot of energy, I don't feel the need snap, I don't want to, I don't think they're necessary either, right? Like, I think that they have benefits. Now, I actually should mention this to be responsible. The only caveat I would say is for individuals who are struggling with chronic insomnia. So if you are not able to sleep overnight despite adequate sleep opportunity, you're struggling with insomnia, you actually should avoid napping altogether, even short strategic power naps, because in that situation, you really want to take advantage of your sleep drive as much as possible. So even earlier in the day, stealing from that sleep drive even a little bit can contribute to making it harder to fall asleep at night. But outside of that, I think naps can really benefit anyone. But unlike sleep overnight, they're not necessary. So if you feel like you don't want to take them or they're not essential, totally fine not to.
Right. And what are the challenges that people usually face when trying to take short naps?
So I think it's the shortness of them, right? Like people wanting to nap for longer. And so feeling like it's too short. But again, I think recognizing that you don't need to nap for that long to get the benefits. So, utilizing an alarm clock to make sure that you're getting up at the same time, and that you're not getting that sleep inertia. And then I think for some people just struggling to fall asleep, like their minds are still going and they're like, it's hard for me to even get in that space I can fall asleep. So doing some wind down into your nap, just like we recommend a bedtime routine where you can kind of wind down, slow down those brain waves, relax to fall asleep. You can have a shorter version of that for your nap time to get you in a space to actually be able to fall asleep.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I realize that I do have that struggle as well sometimes when I'm trying to nap, where I'm so tired that I know I need a nap right now, but there's so many things going on in my brain and it just
Yeah.
can't really switch off. And it just goes on and on for about a good 20 minutes before I decide, okay, I don't think I'm actually napping.
Yes, yes, yes,
So,
yes.
with winding down, what are the best practices for that?
Deep breathing exercises are really great. Doing things like guided imagery, progressive muscle relaxation, listening to a meditation is excellent. Journaling and kind of getting out all of those thoughts that you have so your brain feels like it's able to process it. All of those things can help kind of ease some anxiety and stress and make it easier to fall asleep.
Yeah, I also noticed while you were talking a little bit about those practices that another thing that helps me to nap sometimes is really just going for a walk and going out in the sun for a little bit. I don't know if this is because I've heard a lot of people say that it energizes them. I don't know, maybe it's because like we are going out into the sun in different states where I am really anxious and that sun's helping me relieve the anxiety, whereas someone else is going out there to kind of calm down. I don't know. Maybe so those because of the different effects, different states that we're going out into the sun in, we come back feeling affected in different ways. Is that
Yeah.
what's going on there?
Yeah, definitely. So, like you said, a lot of people going outside energizes them, and we recommend like sun or natural light exposure in the morning to help stop melatonin release and give you more energy. But as you mentioned, it can also just help ease anxiety. So, the sunlight increases serotonin, which is a happy hormone. So, it can definitely do that. There's a such thing as grounding, where just like being in tune with nature in general can help decrease anxiety. And so, everybody is a little bit different in how they respond to these things. So, I think if you find it relaxing and it makes it easier for you to kind of wind down, totally fine to add that into your routine.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I
Yeah,
feel like we learned a lot from this section, and there are definitely some stuff that I will apply to my napping from now on, which I never really took into consideration because a lot of people just think of napping as this very simple activity that you do. It's just a nap. And there's not much strategy to it. So it's good to know there are all these things that can help us with a good strategic short nap. Now we're moving on
absolutely.
to the questions from the audience. And my first question here that we have is: are there any mindfulness or relaxation techniques that can support the effectiveness of a nap?
Yeah, so meditation in general, all the things actually I already mentioned. The diaphragmatic breathing is one of my favorite deep breathing exercises because it's easy to do. You don't even have to have any other party involved to help you do it. And it's really learning to breathe from your diaphragm so you're filling your lungs more fully, leading to decreased stress and ease anxiety. So I think that's helpful. And then really also understanding that everyone is a little bit different. So some things are going to work better for others, for some than for others. So practicing and figuring out what works best for you. But I think meditations are my favorite one, guided meditations to really get you in that headspace, and then diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah, I feel like diaphragmatic breathing has helped a lot with napping and sleeping. For me, I used to have so much trouble sleeping and napping. Um, well, not that much trouble napping, to be honest, but that's more of that's more because of the lack of sleep the night
Mhm.
before. But let's not get
Mhm.
into that. But yeah, diaphragmatic breathing, I can definitely vouch for that.
Yeah.
That really makes you focus on just the breathing itself. It clears your head a
Yes.
little bit, and
Yes.
it also kind of um not I don't want to use the word trick, but I don't know what other word to use. It kind of like you're kind of training your body to breathe the same way that you would when you're already sleeping, when you're in a deep sleep. So taking like
Right.
really
Yeah.
deep breaths. And
Yes.
so your body's just kind of naturally falling
Getting
into
into
that
that
state,
state. Yes.
which has
100%. I
been
agree.
really, really great. So
Excellent.
the next question here that we have is: what advice would you give to someone who is hesitant to use napping as a productivity tool?
I would say try it. Try it and see how you like it. I think that once you experience the greatness that is naps, you will be convinced that it is something that is a great addition to your routine. Again, as someone who like I literally am just a better person after I nap. Like I just am happier. Better, like it just makes life better. And so I would say if you're hesitant, that's okay. Try it. If you still don't like it, again, no need to have to nap. Just make sure you focus on your overnight sleep. But I have a feeling that you will like it.
Yeah, for sure. It's really like, well, it's also if you don't need the nap, again, like what you said, it's really not necessary, but it could add
Yeah,
so much to your life if you wanted to. And if you
exactly.
feel like it doesn't after you've already tried it, then, well, that's good. You know for certain now that it doesn't work for you, and that's
Exactly.
fine. But it certainly
Exactly.
does for other people. And I can vouch for that personally. So now we're moving on to the open mic section. This is your opportunity to talk about anything that you're passionate about, and it doesn't have to be related to the topic. So the floor is yours. Take it away.
All right. So, what's interesting is as a sleep specialist, one of the loves of my life that people would not think that I would have is coffee. I absolutely love coffee. It is also something that instantly boosts my mood. The interesting thing is, caffeine doesn't actually wake me up. So, I think that I am a fast metabolizer of caffeine, meaning it has never stimulated me. I don't even know what it feels like to wake up secondary to caffeine. That's also the reason I'm a sleep specialist because I don't have a fallback. I have to sleep well. Caffeine doesn't wake me up. But I love the taste of coffee, the ritual of coffee, the warmth, the smell. It really is one of the loves of my life. So, yeah, I think if you give me a good night's sleep, a nice nap, a cup of coffee, and shopping, that's like the best day ever.
Oh, that's adorable. So how
Yeah.
do you usually have your coffee?
So I am okay. So I'm a Starbucks girl, and I'm also a very like I'm a very simple and consistent person. So I get the same drink all the time, and it is a nitro cold brew, a vanilla sweet cream nitro cold brew with 1 pump of cinnamon dolce, 1 pump of brown sugar, topped with some whipped cream.
Oh, I've never had that. We don't have a lot of Starbucks here in Australia. We do have some, but there are a lot of like really small local coffee shops that we tend to
Okay.
patronize a bit more.
Yeah.
And they're like just all the standard stuff. So like with all of the Starbucks editions that I hear all the time on social media, I'm like, what
Yeah.
even is that? That's so interesting.
I
Like with the
know.
pumpkin spice and stuff. Like, can I like try a little bit?
I recommend it. I mean, I think it's great that you can kind of customize it. And again, I'm gonna say I just get the same drink every time. I like to stick with what I know, but yes, that is my go-to.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely agree that coffee is such a ritual. There's so many things surrounding coffee with like going to meet friends. It can be over a cup of
Yes,
coffee, and that's like it denotes this casual this casualness about the events. And
yes.
there's such a tradition to it that we're not even realizing right now. So that's great to hear. I didn't realize also that coffee is did you mention that coffee is frowned upon in like as a sleep specialist or?
No, so it's not frowned upon, but so let me clarify. So caffeine can disrupt sleep, right? And so a lot of times when people are struggling with sleep, as sleep specialists, we say you need to limit your caffeine, which is true, right? It's just like napping responsibly, you have to drink responsibly, is what I say when it comes to caffeine. So limit the amount you take and limit the time after which you consume it. So oftentimes when it comes to coffee, people hear sleep specialists like, oh, you're just going to tell me not to drink my coffee. And I'm not going to tell you that because I'm going to drink my coffee, but you do just have to drink responsibly. And so it's interesting that it's one of my favorite things to do. But as a sleep specialist, I know how to do it in a way that doesn't affect my sleep.
Oh, that's great because a lot of people probably go like, "Oh, this person told me to stop drinking coffee, but I really don't want to and I don't know how
Right.
to." So it's great that you have that as well. Is that something that sleep specialists often recommend their clients to avoid?
I wouldn't say avoid, but cut down for sure. So we're
Right.
gonna typically recommend not drinking as much. A lot of people to get over that post lunch, slump instead of napping, they use coffee, right? And they may be on their third, fourth cup, and then absolutely it can impact your sleep overnight. So generally speaking, there's gonna be some talk about okay, we need to limit caffeine intake, but again, there's a way to do it responsibly. So it's all about how much you take and how close to bedtime you're drinking it.
Right, okay. I was thinking more of like one, like half a cup to 1 cup. I didn't realize it was a 3 to 4 cup matter in that case. I didn't realize that people drink that.
Oh gosh, yes. Some people just drink it all throughout the day because they're tired. And so as soon as that caffeine kind of wears off, it's like, oh, I need another boost. And you get a crash too with caffeine often. So yes, people drink a lot. So it's like limit the dose to the amount you drink to what you need to be effective. If 100 milligrams gives you you that boost in the morning, drink 100 milligrams instead of 400. And then generally speaking, trying not to have it after noon, after 12 p.m. But again, as some people are different. Some people need to cut it off a little bit earlier. It just depends.
Yeah, another thing is also, do you think that it might be that people also need to be a bit more aware of how much espresso or how much actual caffeine is going into their cups of coffee?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think the dose effect is real. Understanding that the more you have, the longer it's gonna last in your system. It takes 5 to 6 hours for half the amount that you consume to be excreted from your system. So the more you take, the longer that amount is gonna be in your body. And so if you can limit it, if you can take half of your normal dose and it gives you the effect that you need, then you want to take half. So it can be helpful to know exactly how much you're drinking in each cup.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's been such a pleasure talking to you now. If our listeners want to find out more about you and what you do, where can they go?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, thesolutionissleep.com. I have a link to my book called Sleeping on the Job, highly recommended, as well as my socials and other things. I am most present on Instagram as thesleep_MD. I try to be kind of entertaining, but also educational there. But either of those places are great ways to connect with me.
I love that book title, first of all. And second, we'll link all of the links in the show notes below. Thank you so much, Angela, for joining me today. I think I'll be going for a nap right after this, as you have so inspired me to do. What are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. So here it's around 8 p.m. So it's actually getting close to my wind down time. So in 30 minutes, I'm going to start winding down and actually getting ready for bed.
That's great. And like what we've learned today, 8 p.m. it's probably not the optimal time for napping. So right to bed it is.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you everyone for tuning in to Bouncing Back, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
You have been listening to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by the Life Management Science Labs. Listen to episodes from LMSL's 10 Life Management Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or other podcasting apps on your smartphone. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it and us grow to bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website, pp.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Joanna. Thanks for tuning in.